phase out the state plan policy map with a criteria that has we have our advanced notice of rule here in advance of getting any further down the road. That lays out that strategy pretty clearly. It's not set in stone. We introduced this to be consistent with Executive Order 2 to apply some common sense to the regulatory process so that if there's something in here that's a poison pill or doesn't work, we don't get too far down the road in our policy development that we can't retread and rethink. So we're taking comments on the plan and also taking comments on that advanced notice of rules to see that as we try to phase into something different, we're actually improving the conditions for the state, not just doing something different that may not work. We think a criteria-based system will work more for local government and will also have a level of flexibility that will allow us to work as situations arise. The Garden State values that are pushed forward in this plan are not so different than the former goals of the state plan. They're not very different than the requirements that the legislature put in place in 1986 when they adopted the State Planning Act. We recognize that these Garden State values that talk about things like transportation, physical and economic development type principles, are not going to be drilled down and required to be met in every single town. There's not going to be a requirement that a portion of your town needs to be a city, or a portion of your town needs to be farmland. Every town is different, every region is different. So this gives us a policy framework with a set of values that can be interpreted at the local level so you can respond in ways you see fit. Our third goal is preservation and enhancement of critical state resources. So our first goal is related to targeted economic growth and the industries we discussed there that are in this state that we want to strengthen. The third goal is related to preservation and enhancement of critical resources. And I'll also mention that in our first goal, farming, fishing, and recreation, and tourism are certainly industries that are identified in their sectors that we are identifying that are very important for the state, and we know it's important for a region like this. In this third goal, we recognize that all of our land preservation goals can't be met with public investment, nor should they be. It talks about improving the municipal land use law to allow innovative actions through local municipal ordinances to see that land can be preserved, that from willing sellers, land can be preserved from willing sellers without spending public money. There's tools like this that we have in the state that, if strengthened, could avoid us having to spend more money on land preservation. It also argues that we should have a pot of money for land preservation, that to complement those innovative zoning practices that could result in a more willing selling, willing buyer environment where people are compensated for the land that's preserved. Our fourth goal is tactical alignment of state government as a first strategy, and only after that can we actually think about being a better partner with local government. So we need to have a cohesive state government to really connect our state's goals and values to the way we regulate and the way we spend money. So the regulation that we have in place needs to reconsider the way it blanket approach to regulating every acre of land the same way throughout the state. So we need to be more flexible, we need to be more dynamic, and we need to be more responsive to the market. In this part, we're going to identify, we've already identified state departments and agencies that are key players in physical and economic development, departments like DEP, departments like DCA, Department of Agriculture, DOT. I'm not going to name everyone because I'll leave somebody out. But departments like that are obligated under the executive order signed by Governor Christie to come on board to identify friction points that they have with other departments and local government and the private sector, so we can work out solutions to those issues that we face statewide. The governor will expect the actions presented in those plans to be taken by those departments swiftly. So we've created a framework here that we're putting out to the public conversation that is, we believe, is flexible, responds to local needs in ways that the state plans of the past have not done, and we think that will make for a better New Jersey. So we also want to thank our hosts here publicly with Morris County. Thank you very much for hosting. Thank you much in advance for being constructive and courteous. And we are going to now open it up to questions and answers before we get into the public hearing part. And we're probably not going to be able to accommodate everyone's questions, but again, as I mentioned up front, this is the start of the conversation. If you want to continue it, we have opportunity to continue that conversation.
Is there any chance of getting a microphone? It's really impossible back here.
Yes, and you're next.
The microphone. The word stakeholder is used, I think, 12 times in one page.
Stand and
Stand. Could you get the gentleman a microphone, please? As I read or have read the plan, the word stakeholder is used a dozen times. It's used in one sentence in a chronological timeline. Nowhere in the plan is the word defined. Nowhere are we given a list of who these stakeholders are or what their affiliation is to the plan. Can you address this?
Sure. The stakeholders that this gentleman is referring to were a group, a 14 group of different niche folks from around the state, be they developers, environmentalists, utilities, transportation people, all of these different folks who have different components of development and growth in the state. So what Dan and I and our staff did was sit down with these different stakeholders, try to get input from their specific niche on where they think development should go, what the state plan should look like. This is more of a fact-finding exercise for us to gather information. That's what it was information gathering. And the list of stakeholders or the stakeholder groups are in the table that you see. There's a timeline that's got a description of it.
So, the private citizens are not considered stakeholders.
Well, yes, because 6 of the stakeholder meetings were local government. So we had your elected representatives, be they mayors, administrators, or county freeholders, in 6 separate meetings just for them.
And were they public meetings?
Well, no, they were your representatives. Yes, ma'am.
we spoke about partnering with local government, but the plan does establish a scorecard for local government that incentivizes compliance with the plan and presumably disincents non-compliance with the plan. How is this not top-down?
Well, number one, it's optional. This whole plan is
What's the
voluntary.
question?
Please let me finish, okay? When you shout out like that, it's not
What's
fair.
the question?
Ask, repeat the question.
Yes, repeat the question, please.
Okay. The young lady mentioned the scorecard and how is a scorecard not coercive? Am I correct?
Yes, because it, in a sense, compliance with the local plan, with this plan, in a sense, local compliance with the plan, and presumably disincents non-compliance with the plan.
Well, the way the scorecard operates, again, it's totally up to the municipality if they want to participate. And that's something, I'm a small town mayor myself, so I'm used to having to deal with mandates from Trenton. And that's something we didn't want this to be. We didn't want it to be a mandate, you do it or else kind of thing. Now, something else you have to keep in mind is that the state government has limited money as far as the projects that it can fund, as far as infrastructure, new infrastructure and things like that. So in fairness to the taxpayer, you want those dollars to go where they do the taxpayers the most good. So that's what the scorecard will help us determine, where those dollars should go. And a lot of times, the scorecard will be structured in such a way where all municipalities, be they rural, be they urban, will have something that they can attain. And not every rural area wants to grow. There are some towns who don't want to grow, and that's fine. We want to help them preserve land as opposed to somebody else who may want to grow. We want to help them grow. We want to be a better partner with the municipalities than we have been in the past. And anybody who's a small town councilman or a committee person or a mayor for that matter can tell you that the state in the past has had a very heavy hand. We want to get that away. We want to get away from that. So the locals can decide their own development destiny. This is what helps us do it. Yes, sir.
Yes, just Greg. The plan says one thing, and a lot of what I'm hearing from Dan and yourself clarifies and expounds on what the plan says. I'm inclined to believe what's in writing, but even your
as far as estate planning, I guess. We had spoken about this the other night, that this is a draft. This particular document is now a draft. So we can make adjustments, we can add language, clarify language. This is very valuable to us to hear this. So we know what we have to go back and clarify. I spoke to some folks who were, upset about one particular part or another. When I explained it to them, I said, well, okay, if you just say this, that's better. So I think that's what you're shooting for, clarification of the language. Am I correct?
Well, there's more accountability for everything we're telling us today, and that's some remarks about what the plan would be, how to improve the plan. It certainly speaks to the fact that we want a misunderstanding about the plan, and certainly a lot of clarification is what there. So, individual remarks and what we are today, ultimately reflecting the final plan, is the intention to have all these remarks ultimately accountable. We will all be accountable for all these remarks.
Sure. Yeah.
So the meeting is recorded and there's also.
The meetings are recorded, these remarks are taken down, and we're going to go through every one of them. And we're going to incorporate changes, and it's going to be a red line version posted with the changes that we've made. The additional 30 days will give you a chance to even weigh in further. So there's a lot of opportunity to, to tweak this so we get it right.
We're looking forward to that.
Thanks, Jeff. Yes, ma'am.
Environmental justice, what does that mean to you? I've seen that in the report.
You've seen it in...
In the report, where it's environmental justice. What exactly? It's on page 13 of the full plan.
Yeah, it's not a huge feature of the plan, maybe a phrase used in the plan.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm not denying that it's a phrase in the plan. I think we would probably, to answer your question, I don't have a prepared response to what it means. I think, listen, what I'm saying is this is a real process. If there's deficiencies in the plan that need to be corrected, then we plan to correct them. So, but
Why would the words even be used? If you even intend to, there needing to be something.
I think in popular context, environmental justice means that we should be very careful about the kind of industries we approve in places where people live, to make sure that where people live has a high environmental quality within the raise their families. And I think in general that's what environmental justice means, to make sure that the people that live in areas that are closest to the industries in the state, or the places in the state that are not as healthy as they could be, we should care about that. And that's what possibly environmental justice means.
Gentleman in the white shirt.
Yeah, I'm assuming that, and you can correct me, there's about 5, 6, 7 million people in New Jersey, correct? 8? All right. I went to several different mayors and several different town councils, and nobody's ever heard of this. All right? This should be on Channel 12 News for everybody in this state because it affects every taxpayer in the state. Not in some room at 6 o'clock at night on a Thursday when nobody knows about it, and you're going to vote on it April 3rd, I hear. Is that true, April 3rd?
If I could just answer the gentleman's question, be productive. The governor rolled this out on October 17th. He had a press conference, there were TV cameras, it was in all the papers. We've advertised this in the papers, it was on our website from October until now, it's still there. So there's been plenty of public...
Raise your hand if you've seen it, because I haven't seen it.
Let me just finish. All of the municipalities in the state have been noticed about this. We noticed in 566 municipalities individually, in addition to the counties who so noticed it also. So there's been plenty of avenues for this to get out.
What's the rush? Why don't we have more hearings? What's the rush?
Well, the law calls for 6 hearings, so that's what we decided.
At least 6 hearings.
That's the number of hearings that the administration decides to go.
The administration decides.
Yes.
It's like the terms of the plan.
Right.
People want more.
Yes, sir.
How come in these ordinances with Sustainable New Jersey, when they start authorizing and they accept these resolutions in the township?
I can't speak to any other plan.
Well, it's all part of this, so don't try to give me that.
But
What happens is you got your Sustainable New Jersey and the master plan running coherent with each other, along with the New Jersey Highlands Act. How come it's a lot of these resolutions going through the municipalities, it says plan it. It says my township, the state of New Jersey, and plan it. How come it doesn't say My township, the state of New Jersey, and the United States of America. How come all this is all leading to the United Nations Agenda 21 and you people are so angry you can't even pick up the paper?
I don't know anything about Agenda 21.
You didn't?
First of all, if you don't know about Agenda 21, then you should be here, because what you're getting. Number two, right, I put about as much credence in these hearings as the hearings we had on the redistricting that they had around the state.
And the healthcare.
That's about how. I wear about 8 different hats in this state with the sporting men and women of the state. The whole crux, when you look at all this sustainable conservation, right? I looked on the board of Green New Jersey. I looked up the board members. There are none of us, zero from the conservation end, 0 from the sportsman end. What do we have? We have bureaucrats, government officials, and academicians, right? Because conservation is just the foot to get in the door so they can shove all these regulations down our throat. That's what this is about. And we are not happy, we are not pleased, we are not buying it.
I thought this was a public meeting.
We're here to talk about the state strategic plan. I'm not versed enough in Agenda 21 to speak on that.
It's the same thing!
Let me finish. We hadn't heard about Agenda 21 until this was
The draft is 41 pages. The plan that was approved in '01 is 393 pages. So I take that, this is the template, and once it's approved, then all the details will be added in. We went through this once before recently, where we have to approve it before we know what it's all about. Before you approve it, because we're not going to have a chance to approve it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'd like to know, where can I get a list of the stakeholders and where were these meetings so I can open them and find out what went on in these meetings? Because they got to be public information, so can you give me a list of where I can get the list
Well,
of
they
this?
were held mostly in Trenton, in the office of the Department of State.
Right, but when were the meetings, so I can open them? Do you have dates?
I have dates, I don't know, they ran from March 30th to June 10th.
Of last
Just a
year?
record.
Sir, we'll leave you with the card, and please contact us afterwards, and that information is available for you.
Okay, great, thank you.
We'll give it
And
out.
when is the vote on this in Trenton? When is the vote scheduled for?
Probably mid-April. It has to be within 60 days of the last public hearing.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Incentivize communities to create compact, livable communities. What's a compact, livable community? I've seen it in Italy, which is Agenda 21, and where's the authority for this under the law? It's starting to sound like communist China. It's starting to sound like communist China with their transit hubs and their compact community living where they can go to work. And Italy lays this all out. And if people are interested, there's a UN delegate speaking tomorrow night at Fairleigh Dickinson about sustainable development.
Where's Fairleigh?
Fairleigh Dickinson.
I attended a similar meeting in Newark on Thursday, so I just want to say, in case you didn't pick it up, because I slept through the first one. The first half hour, because there's a lot of technical jargon. And then we have this 10 minutes right now to ask questions. You're going to soon be cut off, and you're not going to get a response from these people. All they're going to do is say, well, you can comment, and you can comment, and you can comment. So I understand the emotion in the room. I have a lot of it myself. But what I would implore you to do is please ask them questions now, because this is the only about whatever. They're going to cut you off at 7 o'clock, and they're going to tell you, sorry, question time is over. All right, no questions. You allege that these meetings are being recorded. Where's the recording device?
Oh,
Can
boy.
anyone access that? Is that going to be on YouTube? No. After these meetings, no one else out there in my neighborhood is ever going to hear what's said in this room. Is that right?
Yeah.
How can that little thing pick up something somebody's saying in the back of the room?
Microphones. Let me summarize the question. We want to have our fellow citizens hear our comments here tonight, because each one of us represents probably 100 people in this state. I don't know the same opinion. I'm just saying, not everyone can come to these meetings. So how does your plan take into account, take into consideration the people who aren't here, how they can hear what we've said?
Well, I mean, we use this for our revisions to the report. So that's basically what this is. This is the information gathering from the public. We will go back and we'll make the revisions, and you'll see those revisions on the red line version on the website.
And my thought part of that is, and once those revisions are there, that I see them, is there any further step where any citizen has further input before it's adopted?
Sure. You can contact us, you can come to the SPC meeting, where they go